welcome back to It's Queer Magic. I'm Kierbo, and it is Scorpio season. I said this last time, but no matter what we do, the time just keeps moving on. And that is a blessing and a curse. So here we are in existence, humaning, me, you, all of us together, enduring incredible atrocities across the globe and still having to show up day to day to our silly little nonsense and vastly important, deeply, incredibly personal loves, desires, obstacles, blessings, challenges, all of it, all the time, all at once. We are here in Scorpio season. We're looking into the energies of Scorpio season. I have done a spread. I've got the cards on the table, and we are looking at a real invitation to recognize that we are in charge, that in so many ways the reins of the chariot are in our hands more than ever, even though there seems to be so much that is out of our control and is truly out of our control. I have a card for the theme of Scorpio season, the lesson we stand to learn, something to lean into, something to lean out of, and a hopeful message for the future. And there's a lot going on here, so let's jump right in. The card for the themes of Scorpio season for us is the Two of Pentacles. And the Two of Pentacles is a brilliant card for right now because it really asks us to be light on our feet. It asks us to continue to be aware of the reality of our needs and the needs of the people around us being an ever-shifting experience. And we've learned a lot of that. We learned a lot about that in Libra season with realizing that these scales are in motion, realizing that the scales of Libra is a constant rebalancing and isn't something that we arrive at and stays static or consistent, right? It is a journey of effort and engagement. And the Two of Pentacles can really embody that in a big way, but through an earthen lens, right? It says to us, your needs and the experience of having them met is a dance. It is mastery in the definition of mastery. That is a relationship and a relationship to and an understanding of something, right? It's not control. We don't control it. We don't control when we need to eat, and we don't control when our grief bubbles over and uncontrollably. We don't control when all of a sudden we're dealing with things with laughter. All of a sudden we're dealing with things with screaming. And all of a sudden, right, our emotions don't necessarily follow rules. It's a chaotic experience. And we are invited to really get bodily in touch, close, engaged with the reality of the ever-shifting needs of us and the people around us. It says, even though we're being called to act in so many ways, that does not mean we are called to ignore other needs. When you are fighting for something that you believe in, you really don't do anyone a service when you are giving them the least of you, right? The most uncared for and raw, burnt out version of yourselves. And that doesn't mean that we don't try harder and put a little effort in when things get high pressure and high stakes, right? It just means that if things are getting high pressure and high stakes and are requiring more of you, then your needs are likely requiring more of you as well. It says if you are witnessing incredible atrocities, just like we all are, if you're seeing horrible images, if you're seeing pain and violence spread around the people that you love, then you have to also make sure that you are doing what you can to decompress, that you're doing what you can to fill up so that you can continue to show up with the best version of yourself. And if you've seen my little reel, then you might have heard me say this, but it's worth repeating that just because you are invited to sort of take care of yourself, it doesn't give you permission by any means to ignore, run away, hide, pretend it's not happening, disassociate forever. It's about taking care of your needs for the reason for the purpose of returning to the struggle. And there's more than one. There's more than one struggle. There's more than one site of atrocities in the planet, unfortunately, right? There's more than one leg of the oppressor. There's more than one tool of oppression throughout the globe, let alone just the United States. We have so many ways in which we are resisting. And because of that, we really do have to find a way to live. And again, that doesn't mean ignore. It doesn't mean walk away. It doesn't mean let whatever will happen will be. It's I'm living, I'm fighting simultaneously, and I'm putting energy towards that. This is an invitation to real mastery of your well-being, real mastery of your energetic resources and your physical resources. How can I juggle this right now? How can I be invested in the experience of balancing my time, attention, my money, my energy, all of it? The Two of Pentacles says this is in motion, right? This is in motion. And as things continue to change and shift, that your needs will continue to change and to shift, and you're being invited to meet them where they are, whenever that is, wherever they end up being, and to do your best to meet them. The lesson that we could learn, that we stand to learn during this Scorpio season, is in the Wheel of Fortune. And there are so many ways. This is why we love the tarot. There's so many ways that these cards could be interpreted at any given moment. And right now, at this time, right before we enter Scorpio season, the Wheel of Fortune is speaking to me about choice. It's speaking to me about the lack of fate, and how sometimes we are the gods walking around on this planet, right? We, humanity, are stewards of the planet and of the other creatures on it. And we are actively being asked to make choices about where we are going to go. And I know that for a lot of us, that can be an alarming and disheartening and hopeless idea, because you think, well, if it's up to us, the answer is crash and burn forever because we're a mess. And I don't disagree. We are a mess, but we are in charge here. People. And of course, I'm not saying this is like an easy thing to do. I'm not saying that like liberation for the entire globe is like a simple process. But what I am saying is that even on the micro in your personal life during Scorpio season this year, you get an opportunity to recognize that the wheel is turning, and sometimes you have to step in and decide where it's going to land. And I know that if you're other tarot people watching this being like, they think the Wheel of Fortune means make a choice. Like, I get it. I'm right there with you, but I feel it in my bones. Okay. It's all in me right now. And I feel really strongly that the Wheel of Fortune is saying you learn what influences fortune, what influences fate. And so little of what happens in our lives as humans and collectively on the planet as a human race, so little of it is influenced by fate, and so much of it is influenced by choice. And that's the point of being here. I'm not saying that fate is fake or not real, because it is. But it is not responsible for as much as we put on its doorstep to say that's up to fate. It is not. Of course, we're not in control of everything that happens ever. We aren't in control, but we are sort of invited to recognize the places in our lives that we are in charge, despite not being in control. And that might be like a big phrase, a big sentence there, a big idea. And you're not, there's no obligation to understand it right away, to interpret it right away, to embody it right away. Let it percolate. Let it turn into something. This is the beginning of the season. It could be so many things. The Wheel of Fortune is a lesson that we are going to learn during Scorpio season. So we will learn where we have no influence and where we are stuck in a cycle, and where also fate is at hand. And we will also learn where we control the hands of fate, where we guide the hands of fate, where we take hold of this wheel, we grasp it and we spin it with the precise intention to land in a future that we want. The Wheel of Fortune boasts incredible potential for the future. It could be anything. And that means that it could be anything. And we have to recognize the places that we have control of one of the notches on this wheel, where we can guide it individually in our own lives and in the lives of all of us together. We are being asked to lean in to the Empress and lean out of the Seven of Swords. This is such a beautiful sort of binary, right? A balancing act, two ends of the same sort of wand, with the Empress speaking to naturalness, speaking to abundance, speaking to the reality of us being intrinsically a part of the cycles of this planet, which include receiving, which include being inherently deserving of resources, of rights, of food and water and warmth and love. All of these things, everything alive on the planet is deserving of that. Otherwise, it would not be here, right? If it is possible, if it is proved by existence, like Sonia Estelle says, then it's approved. And it's here, and it's natural, and it gets to be here, and it deserves to live. And on the other hand, with the Seven of Swords, it speaks to a mind experience of there's not enough. I'm not enough. There will never be enough. There's not enough to go around. What do I have to do to make sure mine are okay? I'm focused on me and mine. What a narrow way to view the world, right? Because there's no such thing as you and yours when we're talking about humanity. We are all you and we are all yours. And to wreak havoc on other people, even on a personal level, in the name of protecting me and mine, or me and mine's interests, is the same thing as hurting you and yours. And I don't want that. I'm realizing as that's coming out of my mouth that I've been really vocal on Instagram, which is like my main app, and not on YouTube. So I want to make it clear that I'm not talking about a both sides approach or a both sides understanding when it comes to Palestine. Over here at It's Queer Magic, we stand for a free Palestine, and that's it, period. And I love you, and if you have to unfollow, I get it, and I love you. And I would fight for your liberation as well. We are all Palestine, and you can't ask a Black, Indigenous, queer, trans person to co-sign genocide no matter what. Point blank, period. So now that I've said that, we can get back to what I'm talking about here, because I realized that it just probably sounded like I was saying, and I'm not. I'm not. Not that I don't mourn all life lost. And I think that phrase of me and mine and you and yours, I'm hurting you to get back, like that, I think is still applicable, but there is clearly one side that has power and is making wild choices, and one side that is responding in kind, right? And making an effort to be liberated and is being forced to act drastically, because liberation requires dramatics and drastic measures. So I went on about that longer than I meant to, but it's important. I'm not afraid to talk. I'm not afraid to say it, so I said it. But here we are, back to the reading, right? We're talking about Scorpio season. Leaning into the Empress and leaning out of the Seven of Swords is an invitation to recognize that there is enough to go around, and that you do not need to let the media, your friends, your family, the fears bubbling up inside of you, you don't need to let any of that influence that reality, or to make you so afraid that you act out of character. Lean out of the understanding or the idea that there isn't enough and that you aren't enough and that you have to grab what you have now and that you have to just sort of deal with whatever is happening on a global scale because because that's how it is, because you don't have enough and maybe your country won't have enough, and it's a distraction. The sevens sort of always have a way of reminding you that sometimes the most glaringly obvious painful part is actually not the issue, and it's hiding the issue underneath something else. And so many of the sevens are great at that, and the Seven of Pentacles can often say, like, you think that just getting this fruit, getting the thing that you want, is going to fix the way that you feel, and it won't. Even though it might help things, it's not actually going to heal what's wrong. And the Seven of Swords sort of says the same thing, but about your perspective, with yourself, with your mind, with your resources, sure, but really with your understanding of yourself and what drives your actions. The Seven of Swords says you think that running in the direction of grasping onto things, of not letting go, of hoarding, is going to make you have enough or make you feel like you are enough, and it isn't, because that's not the problem. So really zooming this into a personal, like we're talking about our lives and ourselves and each other in a personal way as opposed to talking globally. The Empress versus the Seven of Swords, leaning into the Empress and out of the Swords, really asks, what is your lid, your cap, the capacity that you think that you are deserving and that you think of anybody as inherently deserving? Because there's a limit. And as soon as we reach that limit, the Empress is on the table saying, oh no, it's more, it's bigger. Can you handle that? Can you handle that? I remember Lindsay Mack said that the Empress asks us to dilate our capacity for receiving, right? And it's a really difficult, I think it's a very appropriate way of describing it, because dilation is like a muscle, right? It's a muscly effort kind of experience and can hurt. And that's the same is true about the Empress, that learning those lessons of like what it is that you actually deserve and how you're going to go about believing those things when your needs are sort of in flux is a painful experience, especially if your trauma and your pain is rooted in like believing that you are somehow inherently messed up and there's no way to be better and there's no way to feel good, there's no way to have more good days, right? And that you will never be enough and that you'll never have enough. The Empress directly challenges that, and it can feel not great, even though we talk with the Empress about like abundance and a beautiful harvest, right? A ripening of fruit, a receiving of things. We're like, oh yeah, I'm going to be rich and all of my crops are going to be so beautiful, or I'm going to get all the attention I need. Those things aren't necessarily incorrect, but the experience of receiving what it is that you deserve can a lot of times trigger a lot of stuff, a lot of wounding around, again, believing that that is real. But the Empress is less concerned with how much money you have and how many partners are after you and like what it is that you're physically receiving, and much more interested in your understanding of yourself as an earthling, as a child of the clay and dirt and rock and stardust of the planet. It says you and your flesh are me and my flesh on the planet, right? This planet is your mother and you as well. You are not separate from the planet. You crawled out of the ocean just like the rest of us and are made of the materials that existed here already. And the Empress says, what does that change for you if you can believe that you and everything else here, everyone, every creature, every stone, every bacteria, including horrible things like cancer and like terrible diseases, exist. They are earthly. It's an earth thing. Remember with this that the Seven of Swords really can have us tripping and stumbling. It can have us grasping and clinging to more than we actually need, to a surplus. And sometimes that gripping, that hoarding is exactly what causes us to lose what it is that we're trying so desperately to keep. So remember not to be distracted by that desire to keep because you want to understand being safe. You want to feel secure, right? Learn to find other places to feel secure. You still get to have a physical need of money. We're in the world. I get that. We're not villainizing you having needs. That's real. You need money to live. I'm right here with you. Understood. But putting all of our sense of security on a certain number in a bank account ensures that whenever that number is not met, we spiral, right? And that's not the best way to live. I don't know what the best way to live is, but I know that one 100% ain't it. So a hopeful message for the future is the 9 of Pentacles. Look at that. The 9 of Pentacles. It is possible, and it is more important this season, right now, in this moment, than ever before, and probably ever will be again. It is more important now that you find a way to believe, to hope, and then also believe, to have an embodied understanding of the fact, of the reality that it is not over. That this planet can thrive, that this planet and all of its inhabitants can live in harmony, can thrive, can succeed, can love and live and laugh all together in a beautiful, environmentally supportive experience on the planet. It can happen. It is not over. And it's so easy to lose hope in humanity because we are so disappointing. I get it. Me too. I'm here watching people make the same mistakes as their ancestors, or people making choices that are completely opposite of what the root of their family stood for forever and ever and ever, and thinking that that choice honors them. Laughable. We are so silly, to put it incredibly lightly. But we are changeable. That's real. And the reality is that almost everybody on the planet is actually on the same page. That's real. That's real. We agree on almost everything. We may not agree about the exact way to do it. We may not agree on the best way to get it done and what the definitions of words mean together ultimately. But at the end of the day, the majority of people, everyday people, working class people, the global majority of people, we believe the same thing, that people should have food and water and safety, that people are good, and that there are systems that have forced so many people across history and across time and across the globe to act out of character. And there are powers that's been their character this whole time. And it's frustrating, but don't lose hope, because there is a way that we will be okay. And the more that you believe it, the more that you will experience it on this planet. And that I feel confident in promising you. The more that you feel it, the more that you believe it, the more that you put your focus there, the more you will see pieces of this possibility come together. Liberation, listen to me. Liberation is inevitable. It's happening. Everyone will be free. It's inevitable. You can choose to believe that, or you can choose to not believe that, whatever works for you. But I'm going to believe it over here. I'm working towards that future, internally, externally, in my personal work, in my public work, everywhere. And we don't have to agree on what that means. I might not be the space for you. And I love you. And you can hate me and mine forever, and I will still fight for your right to exist. Point blank, period. I am a trans, queer, black, indigenous, fat, neurodivergent, autistic, ADHD person. I have so many of these fun marginalizations. And my orientation towards liberation is not going to be shaken by literally anything. And I think that we all stand to learn that lesson during Scorpio season. And I hope that you can find the endless well of deep love inside of you and follow where it leads you, to utilize the card in the bottom of the deck, to utilize the Queen of Swords, to be so interested in the spin, to be so interested in the truth, to be curious about what is true from a bird's eye view, from further away, from a not detached emotionally, but from understanding that there is no government alive. There is no government around. 0% of them, none of them are fully forthcoming with their intentions, with their actions, with the truth, with the receipts of where the money is spent. That's not true. And you are invited to use that sharp sword of your mind and your discernment everywhere, not just with this issue, not just with the current violence, but everywhere, because I promise you it's connected. Let this season teach you that things can change, that they are changing, and that the more involved we get in that change, the more likely we will be to experience a beautiful, harmonious, abundant, prosperous existence for all life on earth. Okay? I love you. Take care. I hope you have such an incredible Scorpio season. I hope you have an amazing Halloween, and we'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.